Good evening. Welcome to tonight's episode of The Weird and the Wonderful. My name is Antonio, known here on Twitch as Moonrover, along with my lovely host, Sabrina. Yes, that whatever.
And I'm muted, but no, I'm not. All right, there we go. Psych.
Um, well,
Hello
at least,
everyone. All right, it doesn't matter.
at least. Oh, wait a second. Oh, I totally forgot to do that. In the meantime, well, anyway, whatever. I'll set myself up in a minute. But yeah, so welcome to tonight's show. Thank you very much for joining us here. All right, hang on, let me move my microphone here. We're professionals, I swear to you.
Dude, hey, we've done pretty well. I think like of all our shows we've done, I think like maybe one or two were like dump shows, you know.
Excluding the one where we were muted for an
Oh,
hour and a half.
I was including that one. It's okay. I mean, like that's still a good track record.
Yeah, but yes, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the show. So for tonight, as a lead up to, it's kind of been like a lead up to what we're going to talk about tonight. We were talking about early sci-fi and the possibilities of here and there, and how some of it sort of tied, sort of had like an ethical and morality tied into, but there's tonight's topic is something deeply ethical, right? And you could call that
Philosophical, maybe.
Philosophical. Okay, yeah. So it's definitely something that is. I wouldn't say it's a trend because it really dates back to
Like the 100s, like up until the 300s, basically.
Yeah, the 300s.
I mean,
Which
still
is
now too. There's like evidence of it scattered about. You know, whenever they find old pieces of like old Bibles, it's usually Gnostic
Yes.
books. You know, it's like the Book of Mary
Gnostic.
Magdalene or Book
Oh!
of Judas. You know, those kind of.
Yes. Oh, okay. No. I was just trying to remember what my segue was going to be. My segue was, coming right off of the heels of Easter. Happy Easter to everyone.
Yeah, happy.
We're going to talk about and eggs. Yes, and eggs. We're going to talk about Gnosticism.
Right.
Sabrina,
cracking shell.
Cracking the world shell. Could you care to tell us what is Gnosticism?
Right. So, I'm no historian, but we kind of play like we are on the show.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes. So huge disclaimer. We are two regular people. We are not in any way like experts.
Right. So join the conversation if we're wrong,
Yes, please. We will.
But
anyway,
overall,
continue.
It's in early Christianity, especially after the martyrdom of Christ, there were a lot of different sects of Christianity. There was almost like a power vacuum of doctrine, you could say, right? Because it seems like all these different Gnostic groups, you have church elders, and they're eventually what would become like the Catholic Church. But until then, you had all these fringe groups, and they all had different philosophies on Christianity. Like some were a little bit more into like Judaism still, and then acknowledged Christ. So you'd see a lot of like maybe Jewish mysticism kind of elements in them, like referencing like angels and other gods and things like that, making it not really so monotheistic. But then you have other things too, like different groups that maybe believed that Jesus was totally mortal. He was just a regular guy that was never divine, versus the flip side where he was so divine he never really existed on earth. He was like the Holy Ghost himself, really.
Okay.
Or maybe like this isn't me just making it up. This is like stuff I researched. Or
no,
like,
yeah.
When he got his baptism and the dove landed on him, that was like the sign that like he was divine. Some of the Gnostic groups say that that's like when the Holy Spirit entered him, and it was never really virgin birth. Anyway, but the point is, he had all these different doctrines, and some of them weren't so very monotheistic like contemporary Christianity is, where whether you want to call it Jehovah, Yahweh, anything like that, the God of Abraham was a little bit different through many Gnostic points of view. First and foremost, that the material world we live in now is kind of already hell or purgatory itself.
Yeah.
We're already in hell. You know what I mean? Like the idea of like being cold and starving and suffering and stuff, like this is kind of it. So it's really when you start reaching more of an enlightenment, can it become more godlike and things like that. And different groups took it in different ways, but as we're going to see tonight, a lot of the recurring motif is that this world is really a fabricated world created by an imperfect God,
Mm-hmm.
and that in reality the real God, the true gods, this like Jesus and then his kind of female alternate Sophia are like the true gods above the creator God. Things like that. Oh, and like the Garden of Eden, I love their interpretation of Genesis, because in most of their sects, the snake was the good guy. He was like the Morpheus that
Right.
gave us the red pill. Like
Yeah.
when we ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we really did become divine, and that's when the imperfect God that created the material world had to cast us out or make us mortal, things like that. Anyway, so that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
We can kind of springboard more off of there as the show
Mm-hmm.
goes on, but
Yeah.
here we go.
No, no, yeah, yeah, no, good. And now, one thing that I kind of want to clarify too is that, so you talked about how it's the thought or the notion of a fabricated environment that was created by a higher being. Let's
Right.
call it that way, right?
They
Or
have a word, they say demiurge. It's spelled like Demiurge.
mhm,
You have like the higher celestial beings, like mainly like who Jesus is, and then his female counterpart Sophia, and that's like in and of itself kind of heretical, is that Jesus has like this female flip side, the yin to his yang.
yeah,
But in a moment of weakness, Sophia created what the Old Testament might consider Yahweh, but they called him something else, but they called him the demiurge. And so that it's that imperfect being that created this imperfect material world. And that's kind of the prologue, and then Genesis begins, and then he
and then
creates everything.
but that is in itself like different than this other, because you see like how for example in the ancient Egyptian civilization, the Egyptians, their belief was that there was a kind of like a spirit plane, like they believed that there was a another side to their death, like they were aware that they were already living in paradise, but then when you passed away, when you died, you passed on to this other world, but this other world is kind of like a layer that already existed within.
Right.
So
It's some of it feels like it borrows a little bit from Egyptian and Greek, but then again, so does contemporary Christianity, with just the idea of like the devil being underneath us and perpetually punishing people. That's very like Greek Tartarus kind of
yeah,
uh doctrine and stuff that I feel borrowed. A lot of it seems like it actually borrows a little bit more from the East. Some of it has a little bit more of a Buddhism kind of feeling. So it's not like Egyptian. If anything, contemporary Christianity feels more Egyptian because you get judged in the afterlife. Like, you're good, you're
right,
bad, you know?
yes,
Gnosticism is more like, did you study for the divine test? It's kind of like when you die, you get your chance to go to nirvana or not. It's a little bit more Eastern, where you're a little bit more Buddhist about your life, um, and you're trying to achieve enlightenment, because what does Buddhism say? That trying to get a lot of material possessions isn't really so
right,
good. You know what I mean? You want to live this like aesthetic life, of just taking care of your body, not being so needy, not being needy of foods and not being needy of, frivolities,
but
But anyway, so it's a little less Egyptian, it's a little bit more Eastern, it's a little bit more Hinduism too. I don't know. It's just different. That's what makes it kind of heretical.
but correct me if I'm wrong. Like it's also like in its core, Gnosticism is that like there is no before or after. There is that there is that your surrounding, what you see around you isn't real, or that it's a fabrication, and that really the real world is out beyond some unforeseen boundary,
Correct.
and that lends itself to the belief that everything that you're doing really doesn't matter. Like it's very agnostic, or it's very atheist too.
So of course it actually gets that same word because we just say agnostic, like, oh, not knowing whether or not there is a god, but apparently it ties in with Gnosticism. So yeah, it really kind of values in your self-awareness, so to speak, rather than following church doctrine. And that's kind of a thing. Like, yeah, they had churches and stuff, but they really were more of like an inward kind of searching for God. That it's actually funny. So when we talk about the pop culture stuff, I'm going to see the opposite thinking in Christianity
Right.
versus agnosticism or Gnosticism. But first and foremost, I noticed in a lot of Christian articles, they were talking about humans in original sin.
Yeah.
Gnosticism is kind of opposite, where no, at our deepest form, we're divine. Everything else around us is that nutty, imperfect shell. While Christianity, contemporary Christianity, kind of makes you think that no, you're originally evil and you got to wash your sins away, which kind of defeats the purpose of Jesus' sacrifice. I thought he died for our sins, but then it's like, why do we all have original sin anyway? You know?
Right.
So Gnosticism kind of flips it on its head. And, you know, when you see Jesus and you see Neo and all these different characters doing these miracles in front of these people, it's all this allegory for, like, you can bend the reality around you if you have enough faith in, and then fill in the blank, God, that the Matrix isn't real, that you can escape Dark City. You know what I mean?
It's a prison for your mind.
You're in a prison of your mind, which is what makes it very Buddhist and not so very, you know, Egyptian, because the Egyptian and the Greek, a lot of that stuff, it perpetuated those caste systems. It's like, you know, in Egyptian mythology, it's like, if you're a pharaoh now, you're going to be a pharaoh in the afterlife. That friggin' sucks for the slave who's a slave now and going to be a slave in the afterlife, you know?
Right.
But
this is more of a realer sense, you know, the Serbs over in pre-communist Russia, where it was, you know, like you're born and you die owing some sort of debt to some master, and then that's it. Like that is your life.
Right. That's not a good doctrine, man, you know, but you can see why the old churches didn't like that, you know. They didn't like these people feeling like they could be their own salvation. It defeats the purpose of probably what they were trying to go for. So so now you have that kind of springboard.
We can talk about how the church was totally like really flexing that whole, like, you know, serving a higher purpose.
I mean, has it really stopped? You know, like it just rebrands itself, but it's basically the same thing. So, you know, so that's the origins of Gnosticism. So eventually around the year 300, when Constantine, we always bring that up, when Constantine made everything Christian, but that is kind of when everything changed. Gnosticism kind of started to die out. It seemed like it moved west a little bit, and then you see evidence of it. And then every once in a while, like I said, on the History Channel, when like they're talking about like recently discovered pieces of the Bible, and it's usually like Apocrypha. A lot of Apocrypha is just Gnostic texts. Book of Mary Magdalene, Book of Judas. They say heretical stuff like Jesus might have had a twin. It's the kind of stuff that like is in the Da Vinci Code, where you know Mary,
like
Magdalene,
Jesus had a kid
and had a kid. That's Gnostic stuff. But so springboarding off of that, though, we have a lot of pop culture, especially, man, around like the year 1999, like that Y2K. You know, Y2K. I don't know. People were kind of obsessed with like the fabricated reality, so that's when I feel like it popped up the most. We have
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, like it's by not to jump ahead or
no,
anything,
go
but
for it.
yeah, but like 1999, you already had Ghost in the Shell, you already had what else happened in 1999?
So
Like I
already,
think
so that would
like
be
The
Utena, The
Matrix is
Matrix,
starting
yeah,
to get,
Dark
yeah,
City. That's when all those came out.
yeah. Yeah, Matrix was like 2000, like late 2000,
So
2001, something like
the
that.
first Matrix was 99, and then
Okay,
Revolutions and the other one Reloaded. They came out the
Reloaded.
same year. I think that was like
Yeah.
2004 ish.
And then there's Resurrections.
And then Resurrections. Hey, Resurrection got like one thing right, but it took like way too long to get there.
Sure,
But we'll talk about
sure.
that. Yeah,
We'll
sure.
talk about that.
Yeah, you got.
But yeah, so bring it all the way back. Okay, so the year 300. Um, you also mentioned in one of our like pre conversations, Hesse, but Hesse is
like 1800s. It's he wrote this book, Damien. I'll be honest, I haven't read it even though I own it, so I feel like a poser.
okay.
But that's it. It's got Gnostic themes. I think one student tells it to our titular character, Damien. He inspires him. He tells him this speech where a chick hatching from an egg must destroy the egg to live. So it must destroy a world, and we are the chick, and the world is our egg. And if we don't break out,
Right.
we'll die. You got to smash the world itself. And the bird flies to God, and the god's name is Abraxas, and that's important because that's a Gnostic god of like duality. He's the one above that incomplete and the bad god, the demiurge. So he's a good god, but he's like the god of duality, and so that's another reason why Gnosticism was very frowned upon. Was it encouraged androgyny? Oh, they believed that the supreme being actually was an androgynous being, the primordial being, and when they made Adam and Eve, it was them split. It wasn't he making a she. It was like them.
Right.
It was already them.
It's two equals. It's two parts of the same whole, or like it's two
right,
equals.
exactly. And so so the early Christian church hated that. But anyway, so that's the god that they're referencing in Damien. That's the god whose title track for Utena, it's that same speech.
Right.
Anyway, I played that in our opening. Bonus for anybody replaying the show going, what is this crazy ass Toccata and Fugue Bach sounding song that Sabrina's playing? It's from Utena. Anyway, I digress. So Damien, I didn't finish reading Damien. Like I said, it's got that speech that's essentially Gnosticism, because as we're going to discover with Truman Show and all other pop culture references, there's always a figurative wall to crack. Right? Either if it's of the mind or literally a physical wall,
really a physical wall, or you could even like jumping way ahead, right? It's the I do know that in certain sects of like mysticism, there is that like, we are only living on a certain plane, and like there's other dimensions, other planes that we can access, and it is only through tapping into these pockets of energy that we are able to
that sounds like the trailer for Everything and Everywhere All at Once. I want to watch that.
I gotta watch that film.
I know, it looks cool. It's only in theaters though, so
it looks pretty kick-ass,
right?
With Michelle Yeoh. Oh
yeah, that's my girl.
Definitely,
she's one of the reasons why I watch Star Trek Discovery.
Oh really? Okay.
But
yeah, I really want to go watch that film.
It's good.
Apparently, it's
I think the first season's the best for sure.
No, I'm talking about Everything and Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, that one. Oh yes, we got to see that for sure.
We gotta see that.
So, but going back, so I'm gonna skip Damien. I'm only referencing it because it is a book that's philosophical with Gnostic themes. I do want to go back and say a lot of Gnosticism is also very Platonian. Is that how you would say it?
Okay.
Of Plato, because we have the allegory of the cave also kind of
Oh,
matches that
how could
philosophy.
I
So
not? Yes, how could I not remember that?
right,
Yes, I think the biggest, now that you mention it, yeah, that's kind of like what Gnosticism is in a nutshell. It is the allegory of the cave.
right,
It totally is. Yeah. So
and
for
you
those of
can't.
us,
Oh, go on.
no. I was gonna say that for
Yeah,
those of us
explain
who
for
have no
our.
idea, for those of us who have no idea what the allegory of the cave is, you care to tell us what it is, Sabrina?
So let me make sure I get it fully right, not just half right. It's
All right.
if you have a person who's only lived in a cave, or people that have lived in a cave all their life and lived in a world of shadows, you can't describe to them what the world of daylight outside of that cave is. They have no comprehension of what a dog or a tree is. But then also alternately, if you take that person out of the cave and show them the world out, they still also can't describe it to the people in. So something like that. It's just, you're only limited to what you literally know, so to speak, before you get to experience it yourself. But anyway, so you can
Yeah.
elaborate further on it.
Yeah. So if I may, the my elaboration is that the people who reside in the cave, they actually do see silhouettes, or they see shadows from a projected light of some sort that is being projected on the wall, and then their only um shall we call it perception, is of these shadows that they see on the wall, and only they accept that these silhouettes and these shadows on the wall that is their reality.
Right.
That is this it also plays on to the theme of like fear of the unknown, because they see these basically monsters just flipping in the background, and then they're like, oh, the world, this it the cave is safe. We should stay inside the cave, because whatever that is, that looks dangerous. But then there is the person that is the curious, the adventurer, that wants to know what really these monsters look like. And then what he or she ends up finding is that it was no monster or creature at all. It is just literally trees outside of this cave. But the perception of the beings that are inside the cave never really knew that they were inside a cave to be with. They just thought
Right.
that
That was this limited
whatever it
world.
is that
Yeah.
they were inside, that was it. Like, this was the world.
Right.
And they didn't realize that what they were inside was a cave, and there was in fact a whole other world outside of this cave out there. And then when that person came back to try to convince the people, hey, like, these are not monsters. I didn't see any monsters. You need to come and like see the world that is outside. They think that he's a madman, because they're like, what do you mean that there is an entire world outside? This is the only world that exists, and we're surrounded by monsters. I mean, it's
Right.
so obvious. Yeah.
So one metaphor that comes up a lot, alternately, like in Gnostic movies, ones that have a lot of motifs, is if they're not doing like a allegory of the cave, like Shadow on the Wall, they do like to use like a sleeping motif, right? Like you're only
Right.
living in a dream, like a dream
Yeah, you're
you've gotta
living in
wake
a
up from.
dream. Yeah.
And I bring that up because it's really ironic that a lot of the more closed-minded people of the world are against woke culture. And it's like, well, what are
You're
you? Are
going
you
there?
sleepy? Like, you
Okay.
can't be calling some people sleepy, but then also going against woke culture. Like, so wait, are you saying you're not woke? Are you saying you're sleepy? Which
Or
is,
you're too woke. You're
are you
too
too
woke.
woke? Really? You're just so wound up. Okay, I don't know. So that's like my little political jab. Like,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but seriously, and that's going to be a motif. So we're going to bring up the pop culture because we're at like our 30-minute mark. I want to
Yeah.
start maybe a little bit with Logan's Run. I want to bring that up and kind of passing because I don't think it was deliberately Gnostic. I think
Sure.
maybe Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep was a bit more,
Yeah.
an imperfect being i.e., humans, fabricating what was attempted to be a perfect being, i.e., replicants, and do they have a soul, that kind of thing. We are spirits in a material world, that police song, that's all very Gnostic, very Blade
Yeah.
Runner and
So
stuff.
then, yeah. So then
But I was
in
going to
this,
say,
in this,
but Logan's Run gets an honorable mention just because
right.
it's that allegory of the cave that, like, all these characters know is the bubble. That's a big thing of, like, the first half of the movie. Where,
Right.
like, is there even a world outside their domes, their protective domes? Because it's like post-apocalypse on the outside, right?
Yes.
Right?
Supposedly.
Supposedly. Exactly. So that's what I mean. So it's kind of like it's that allegory of the cave. You're talking about the danger, Well, is it still dangerous out there anymore? These people are
Right.
like perpetually children. In fact, they don't live past the age of 30. So they're trapped in this perpetual childhood and they're never really getting to like fully mature and wake up and get out and explore. They're like hyper protected,
Mhm.
in like this philosophical Garden of Eden. But anyway, but go on. So did you want to bring
Sorry.
up Blade Runner?
No. I well, yes. Blade. Well, I wanted to bring up Blade Runner in the sense that it's talking about spirits in the material world, but then like that's kind of what Blade Runner and a lot of these like androidic
Well, you were
films
mentioning
sort
Ghost
of
in the Shell too. Yeah, you could bring that up because
yeah.
it came out in the same decade anyway.
Yeah, because no, because well, in Ghost of well, I mean, sure, yeah, Ghost in the Shell, and they tried to answer that. They tried to answer the question of it's something that is basically man-made. Can it can it conceive, or at least like does it count towards that belief of being a trapped spirit? Is it really a ghost in a shell, even if the shell is fabricated?
Right, like
And
where does the
that's
soul reside?
right.
Like where does it start and begin? Because a lot of
Right.
people want to say life begins at conception. It's like, okay, but what about the soul? Is it before we're even born? You know what I mean? Like, is there a soul well? Christianity seems to always want to create this kind of
Or does it
afterlife.
happen does it happen at the age of like 3 to 4 months, when like people start saying like, oh, like the baby is starting to have a personality now? It's
Right,
like it didn't
self-awareness.
have a person. It didn't have a personality when it got
I,
out.
I'm telling you, man, they have some personality before they're even born. Like that, that is pre-birth. But I'm still pro-choice because I still life is more complicated than that. But the
Anyway.
personalities, man. But seriously, that's a motif. So like the Matrix and Utena, they have this kind of like you you may be living, but you're not really alive. Like you're sleeping in a coffin. You know what I
Right.
mean? You're gestating in a coffin, so to speak. Like
Yeah.
you have that.
You're asleep. You're not woke.
Right. You're like Sleeping Beauty. And for
You think
Utena, they have that, but it's in the fetal position. Like
yeah.
they're not in a sleeping death. They're in a death like wakeness.
You
They're
think
unwoke.
you're woke, but you haven't really opened your eyes.
Exactly. So we had Ghost in the Shell and Blade Runner. So getting to Utena, that it was like one of the few Gnostic themed shows that bothered doing their homework and referencing like the actual gods involved. Like they have a track name that references Abraxas, and they have another one that mentions Sophia. But motif wise, as we said before, late '99, like all these different shows came up. You had
Yeah.
Utena with the fabric.
Sorry, but before we move on, I also want to clarify that just the name Sophia, right? Like Sophia has the word Sophia has a very strong tie, or at least it is like
Right.
it's Greek for light, or it's Greek
It's
for
wisdom. Yeah, it's wisdom and knowledge, which
Yeah.
is like
It's wisdom and knowledge. So like you can see why the Sophia is kind of attributed to a lot of this like Gnosticism thing, because it has to do with like light and wisdom, and like seeing the light in a place from darkness. Darkness
Exactly.
being
So
the
yeah,
cave.
she's
Yeah.
supposed to be Jesus's counterpart, which
Yeah.
a lot of people don't vibe with. But so he mentions somewhere. I have my Bible pulled out, but I'm not really ready to thumb through it. He mentions a bride, and the official current contemporary church stance of the church is the bride is meant to reference the church. And that's why nuns get married to Jesus instead of just dedicating themselves to the church.
Right.
But Gnosticism literally believes that, no, he's talking about a woman. He's either talking about Mary Magdalene or he's talking about his divine wife. They kind of wanted to act like everybody had like this cosmic twin duality lover. You know what I mean? Like everybody gets a soulmate basically, but you get your balance.
Right.
Right. But like, so even Jesus, right? You know what I mean? Like for the masculinity of God, there's the femininity too, they didn't like that. So that's what I like about Utena is it, for all the feminism in the show, and for people who don't know what it is, it's like the show that came out right after Sailor Moon that was filling in that gap of, there's no girl shows, like in Japan, but it's like got the color coded people, the pink haired girl, the red haired guy,
the Deuteronomist that has the green hair.
Yes, yeah. You got the jealous green-haired guy, the passionate red-haired lover boy. But underneath that surface, you got a lot of Gnosticism themes, and it doesn't seem very apparent at first because you've only seen the first episode. But even in the lyrics of that first Duel song, they say stuff like, "I'm just an actor. All of life's a stage."
Right.
I was dead before I
yep.
was born. A lot of the lyrics pop up there, and as I said before, there's a lot of like sleeping, like in a fetal position in a coffin because they're not dead. They just haven't been born yet. That kind of weird motif.
Right.
And there's like a fabrication around the school. It's in and of itself, it's like a magical matrix where everything's kind of more of a fairy tale than it comes off. But anyway, so that one did its homework. And you have a very Christ-like heroine, but she's different than Sailor Moon. I feel like Sailor Moon borrowed from contemporary church. She's got like a holy grail and
just a chalice, a literal chalice.
She's got a literal chalice, but like Utena, if I have to compare her to Gnostic Jesus, it's one of those things where it's like, did she really exist? Or you can even say that she is like him, where
Well, she's androgynous.
She's androgynous. Yes, exactly that. Yeah. She embraces her masculinity. But she kind of starts with all the answers, And so that's kind of like the thing about Gnostic Jesus is that he kind of has all the cheat codes. We got Pink Pufflet in the house. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
You got us at the good half of the show where we're talking about pop culture stuff. So we're talking about my favorite, my second favorite girl show that isn't Sailor Moon, but I had to binge it. You and I, we watched like one episode the other day. I'm like, who am I kidding? I got to rewatch all of it. And what's funny is I've seen it when I was 14. I've seen it in my 20s, and now I'm in my 30s, and I feel like I cracked the world shell. I feel like my third eye opened up, like, because it's a weird show to get. It's kind of like watching like the third Matrix or something. You're like, what the fuck am I watching? Right. Because they just pummel you with symbolism and backwards talk. But anyway.
It's mind porn.
It's mind porn, yeah, for sure. Oh, it's like symbolism porn. There's so many like color-coded flowers and things to start off with. But yeah, so the Gnosticism.
The Matrix is green and the real world is blue.
Right. You have like the confines of the school are this fabricated fairy tale reality that starts to unravel. And it really is just as simple maybe as leaving the grounds for things to kind of level out. It reminds me of Lost a little bit, where people wondered, like, are they in purgatory? Are they dead? Is that what this is? I'm talking about Revolutionary Girl Utena, which you can watch for free, anybody wanting to, on YouTube, through Nozomi. I guess it's like the distributor. Highly good show, in my opinion. Highly good, highly recommend. I mean,
highly recommend. Yeah.
But and that came out. So that came out in '97. It's gone on 25 years now, so it's not like a dead franchise. So it is important to bring up. But then I don't want to give too much away or dedicate too much time to it because that's just basically it. It's like I assure you it's
Yeah.
Gnostic. You know, check
Yeah.
it out. But
They talk
then-
about eggshells and birds.
They talk about HL. Yeah, the student council, they have their speech about breaking the world's shell. Which brings me to talking about Dark City. So, like, the very next year, Dark City came out. And let me see when The Truman Show came out. Because, again,
Yeah.
all these movies
No, yeah, and that.
came out around the same
All
time.
these movies came out
Are-
like one after another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna mention-
Everyone was just everyone was all about the Gnosticism.
Right,
In, like,
and
the
I mean,
mid-90s.
like, so Truman Show, that was, like, the first serious Jim Carrey movie, really, before he started doing the other serious ones, like Eternal Sunshine, which,
right.
arguably, I
And-
won't say is Gnostic. It's like, yeah, you got people
No.
dreaming and alternating the reality, but it's not quite the same.
No,
but-
if anything, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Sun is more a it's more of a, I want to say, like, it's very centered, like it's more of a reflective thing because it goes through him. I studied architecture and I had to watch this film because the project was that we had to, like, design a house for Joel, I believe is what his name was in the film. And what a lot of people in like, you had to come up with a theme. So what a lot of themes that people came up with from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Sun, it was like this like very like repetitive theme. I think someone else said something like how he found the good moments in a bad time,
Right.
sort of thing.
But yeah, the only thing I'm gonna say is like similar is fabricating your reality based off of your memories. Uchina kind of plays with that. You know, it's like, why is she so obsessed with wanting to be a prince after meeting a prince? You know, it's more like
Right.
you're not asking the right question, which is funny because I think that's a line in Dark City and The Matrix and stuff like that. You know, but yeah, because we don't have to go to Eternal Sunshine, but I'm just basically just bringing up just in general, like, you know, the fabricated reality of the mind. And then for Truman Show, it's literally the fabricated reality of the reality show he lives in. You know, everybody's faking it. Everybody's an actor around him. That's not like just some quirky movie. That's like literally what Gnosticism almost tries to tell you. It's like, you know, not that people around you are fake, but most certainly, you know, there's something greater to that. You know?
There's something greater than the reality that you perceive yourself.
Right. And some people probably just aren't woke. That's probably what they're also trying to say. Because, like, if you look at The Matrix, you know, they even acknowledge that, like, there are some people that are just going to want to stay.
Yeah.
And take the blue
and
pill.
There's some people, and
know?
there's people
like,
who are not ready.
Or, yeah,
They're-
like, that's what makes the villain Cypher, you know, I'm going to say the antagonist, you know, such a good bad guy is because he knows what's at stake for humanity, and he would rather go back in that figurative coffin. He would rather go back in and have the comfort of the fabrication of wanting to eat a piece of steak. You know, that's literally his argument for it. He would rather think the piece of steak tastes good in his mouth than actually eating the slop, because unfortunately the characters of the Matrix live in like this opposite version of Gnosticism where the world they wake up to is actually hell, and it's up to them to like save everybody.
It's this, it's this dichotomy of the utopia that is the fake world and the dystopia that is the real world.
Right. Because for anybody else tuning in, I want to remind them that, like, the Garden of Eden, I feel like that's almost like the first level of the Matrix. It's like, at a certain point, we were very animalistic, and then at some point, we were convinced to eat the apple of knowledge of good and evil. And for Gnosticism's interpretation of that, it's like, you can't go backwards. You can't unlearn what you learned from it. You have to move forward with your knowledge. You can't regress.
Which is actually something that the architect says in that scene where nobody pays any attention to.
No,
but
it's so important. That's why I was mad
Yeah.
about Matrix 4. I'm like, where's like a good architect scene? Why is it so mundane? Why are we just in Neil Patrick
Yeah.
Harris's office? Like, where's like the room of TV screens?
Why?
Anyway, go on. Yes,
why is Neil Patrick Harris like, I have found the secret. The secret is I control you guys through your emotions. Haha! Like,
and he does it several times over, which also happens. In fact, that's an important theme in Dark City. That's an important thing in Utena, is that like when you're not woke enough, you can you've got the wool over your eyes still. They can keep changing the Matrix on you over and over again. They can keep doing deja vu tricks on you and things like that, and you won't notice. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah. But anyway, so to gush on that architect scene for a bit, like that's what the architect says. Like the first iteration of the Matrix was a paradise.
Yes.
Like we wanted to keep you human beings completely satiated. So we created a paradise. But then we found that it became way too easy for you guys in a literal paradise to just not accept this as a reality, and so it was really difficult for the machines to like keep you guys under control, even if it was a complete paradise. So we shut that down and we tried again, and by the fourth or fifth try, we found out that it was in fact just putting you guys in such a mundane, normal circumstance that you guys were the most easily fooled.
Yes. That's exactly it. Because you even have to wonder too, if you're looking at Book of Genesis, you pick up any kind of King James version of the Bible, you have to ask yourself, how long were Adam and Eve already in the Garden of Eden before they caved in? You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, think of it like Matrix terms. How long before they came? Were they in the Garden of Eden for like a day, a week, like 100 years?
Did they have any children when they were?
But that's what I mean. Like, you know what I mean? Like how long before they were expected to not cave in? That's why, like, it's contemporary Christianity wants to make it out like it was this moment of weakness and curiosity and woman's temptation and stuff
within a matter of moments, right?
Like really God put it there.
Really?
Also, and so this is another important thing that pops up, especially in Dark City and in Utena Matrix and stuff, is free will. It seems like contemporary Christianity hates the idea of free will, that God gave us a destiny, but if God gave us a destiny to follow, then that really defeats the purpose of heaven and hell, right? Like, how can we get cosmically judged if we're just following the NPC auto-programmed path that we're supposed to go on? It's only when we have free will and we're allowed to really do what we want can you really judge if we did a good thing or bad thing. Because when you're given, like, all the ultimate freedoms, and, you do the right thing, then it means more. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I eventually, as we're working through the Matrix and we're working through all these kind of stuff, I wanted to bring up Free Guy, because Free Guy's really important as far as movies go. Like, for Gnosticism things, it's like, wow, he literally broke his own code. He ordered a different coffee. He got a different life. He stood up to the bank robber. He literally put on the glasses and he got woke. It was very like They Live. Like, he literally saw the light.
Right.
He became like Jesus amongst the NPCs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and what did he tell them?
He saw the code. He saw the code.
But he tells them he tells them what's in me is in you. You know what I mean? He did the very Christ-like thing where he's like, no, you don't have to follow me. Like, the light's in yourself, and that's they all break their code. You know what I mean? So as we're getting onto that, it's literally you gotta wait for the Matrix, you gotta break the code, you gotta
see, like, this is the part where I told you that I really wanted to not try to rant about this movie, because
don't compare it to Ready Player One. I tell our audience already.
No, it's not that I'm comparing it to Ready Player One. It is exactly what you just said. Like, it is the moment that guy. Oh, by the way, like, huge spoiler alert, right? Like, spoiler alert.
Please watch Free Guy. It's still a really good movie.
Please watch Free Guy.
Is like.
Please watch for you guys. This is your 10-second spoiler alert. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the moment that you just brought up where he sees the code, he snaps, right? It's written in his programming to do that. Because if Keyes originally said, hey, like our whole point was to have these NPCs that could like they learned, like they knew how to recognize things. It all started from when excuse me, like it started from his fascination of Millie.
Bring Claudia up on the screen. Don't shoo her away.
Yes. Okay. Claudia, look, it's right
loves
here.
The cat,
Look,
loves the streamer cat.
Here's my kitty Claudia.
Here's my streamer cat. She's not with me tonight.
So it was written in his code that when he gets infatuated with Millie, and then it's because of his infatuation with Millie that then he gets curious about the sunglass people, and then that's when he gets tired of, like, okay, like I want to do what Millie does. Like, what can I do what Millie does? Oh, I probably need the glasses, so he gets the glasses, and then like it's the thing where like it's the juxtaposition of that he is aware that he becomes self-aware, but it's not because someone taught it to him. Like it was already ingrained into him to be that. Like, call it like it was in his code for him to be curious already, right. For him to detect
his
patterns.
Code was that he was supposed to be perpetually looking for his dream girl. I think what the code wasn't anticipating was that he would see, in his opinion, like the divine being. So that's why. So I want to backpedal a little bit for people who haven't seen Free Guy. Like, what makes this movie Gnostic, right? Like like the Matrix and stuff. Because on the surface level, it just looks like a movie about an NPC that like gains self-awareness. But so we start from his perspective as an NPC in this very GTA like world where they're perpetually getting robbed. This is his allegory of the cave. He knows no other world. He gets robbed every day at his bank by people with the sunglasses. People with the sunglasses are so cool. What we know as the audience eventually is that the people with the sunglasses are the players. Everybody else is just an NPC. So his security guard buddy, the lady he orders coffee from, they're all NPCs. One day, he actually sees one of the two people that created the game. There's two people that created a game. A girl named Millie and a guy named Keyes. I'm going to assign Millie as our Sophia and Keyes as our Jesus. And I'm doing this allegory because literally he sees, he being Guy, very generic name, Free Guy, because they can't name the movie Free Will, right? Because that's like what the movie's about, He literally sees the woman that's in his code to love. She likes the same song that he's obsessed with by Mariah Carey, which is funny because the song is Fantasy by Mariah Carey. And if you look up the lyrics, it's also very Gnostic. It's like, I don't want to wake from this dream, this fantasy, and stuff like that. I just want to be with you. And I'm like, oh, see, she's liking a fake reality and not the real one. But anyway, so from seeing just literally the divine being, now we're not looking at it like that from a audience point of view, but that literally for him it kind of is. He becomes brave enough to go up against the sunglasses people, and he steals a set of sunglasses, and then he literally gets that second sight where he sees what the players see, which is like the money in the sky and all the levels and all the the med packs and guns and stuff,
Yes.
So he's literally seeing that other side. And so it's very similar to Gnosticism because our Jesus and Sophia had their game sabotaged. Their perfect code was a paradise. Their original game, Free City. It was a paradise, right? No, or no, it was
no.
Life Itself.
Their concept was called Life Itself.
Life Itself, yeah. So Life Itself was this perfection for the NPCs, and this guy Antoine, who's our demiurge, played by Taika Waititi. He's the demiurge. He's literally this imperfect Yahweh kind of character. This one that created the one that they actually live in now. So
Yeah.
he stole the
It was,
code and he
it was
rewrote this imperfect world.
literally coming in from Burning Man, and he's dressed like one of
Right.
these
And
like
but
store-looking
his ego too, his worship me ego is very Old Testament God that Gnosticism is actually
Yeah.
kind of against. So that's why he's a very prideful kind of guy. If you really look
Yeah.
at, and so it's funny. So this is why I want to go and talk about contemporary Christianity for a moment. Is I was trying to find essays or articles on Gnostic themes in Free Guy, and I only was able to find one in a Gnosticism Reddit. Otherwise, I was able to find Christian and Catholic magazines or articles calling Free Guy out because there's one scene where he asks the girl, he goes, "Oh, you've met God? And he's an asshole?" and stuff. And it's funny because the people were like, "Oh, this is very heathen and everything like that,"
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it is depending on how you're really looking at it, but I guess you're looking at it from a very contemporary Christianity
Yeah.
kind of way where that sounds very
Sounds very
heretical, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So without getting too
It
much
sounds,
into
it sounds very agnostic.
agnostic,
Sorry, it sounds very
no,
agnostic.
but you're right.
Yeah.
It is heretical, like, oh, God's an asshole. So anyway, but Free Guy, it seems very gnostic because as he starts getting better, it really does spread to the NPCs and the player characters. They comment on things. They talk about how much harder it is to level up in the game doing good things, which is in essence what Christianity is all about, right? Like it's harder to do the good thing, but that's what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that
Yeah.
fell in line very well with it. It's like you really can play the game of life however you want. Like
True.
just gonna make it harder or easier on yourself.
Yeah.
But then finally, of course, there's that mystery paradise they're trying to get through, trying to break through that world shell again. That's more back onto Gnosticism, that there's a paradise and you don't have to die to get there. But
Oh yeah, it's it's a reflection. It's
right.
It's literally inside the lids of your eyes, like that.
It was like in the blinds.
It was in the blinds, yeah. Okay, so yeah, no, so that was my
Right.
that was my first rant, and then the second rant was how oh yeah, that in it that so yeah, so in that crucial moment, right? That crucial moment when he makes that decision to confront the player with the sunglasses. It is not it is not a moment where it is not that moment where like Morpheus presented a red or blue pill. It is something that was naturally, that was like written in his code for it to eventually happen. So that's my first rant.
Right.
The second rant is that, and this is the good one. So it was in that moment that it's kind of like Stephen Hawking's sort of theory on how the universe was created. It's like, it's celestial and the cosmos. The cosmos is created from a mistake.
It had to have been.
And that you mentioned like a sequence, an irregular sequence in coding is what sparks the revolution.
Right. And I mean that's life too. And a regular sequence encoding, that's just a simple mutation that can make just about anything.
Right. But it was Sirius falling from the sky that sparked Truman's curiosity. It was the
Wasn't it? Yeah.
odd
behavior.
behavior.
Didn't a skylight fall on him?
Yeah, no, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like the skylight was Sirius, which was a
Oh,
star.
okay, got it. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And also that, and from that moment is when he starts to realize, like, why are certain people following me? Like, why are people like pushing me over here? Why does my wife keep on like saying I need to buy the newer product?
Right. Everything, or just like the way that like people would come and try to tell him that he was in a fabricated world, and it just didn't make sense. They just looked like a madman, right? Remember that
Right.
it happened like twice. They showed for his
Yeah.
anniversary clips, like specials, because you have to wake yourself up out of it. People telling him
Right.
that he's living in a reality show sounded mad to him. That's very
Right.
allegory of the cave. Like being
Yeah.
told wasn't good enough.
Yeah, he really wasn't convinced that he was in a fabricated world until he got on the boat, and the boat literally crashed into the
Right.
edge of the world, and he's like, "Oh fuck."
But like in that movie, in Dark City, even Utena, you have what I love about those movies is you have the ambiguity of what they're gonna do with the rest of their life, right? Like they reach that door, and like what you're supposed to understand is all you're gonna have is like, freedom. I mean, of course, duh. But it's the ambiguity part, that open endedness. Free guy. I love. I don't know him and his dude.
Which one?
And Free Guy.
Uh-huh.
The security guard guy, man, he was always dropping his gun down to his ankle.
Oh yeah, Buddy. Yeah.
Buddy, there you go. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I did find it kind of comical that like the security team of Tsunami, when they saw Buddy in his moment, they're like, that was the goddamn best security guard ever.
That's right.
And then it was also so meta too, when like guy goes up to Buddy and he goes like, "Hey, do you know like all of the security guards?" And he's like, "I sure do."
Yeah, I love that. There's
Because no. I mean, like I found it meta because like that's a joke in like every other TV series. It's like, oh, you think that just because like we're like this, like we all know each other? It's
We
like
have
it's
names.
the one time when it actually mattered. He's like, of course I know all the other security guards.
that was funny because they have a joke like that in Free Guy where like Anton, he's like calling the guy security. He's like, his name. Like the guy's got a name. Like they had that like on the flip side in the real world. Like,
Yeah, you got a real name, bro.
yeah.
No, but what I mean is that that's sort of jab that's sometimes perceived as like racist or prejudiced. Is like, you think like we know everybody? You think like you think like all Puerto Ricans know like all know
Yeah, you
each
know.
other?
Yes, you
Turns out in Free City, all security guards know each other.
That's right. I just love when he was ordering a different kind of coffee.
Oh yeah.
How that broke.
Oh my god, yes, that moment. I was like,
Because that scene, without getting too much to our audience, but like we're dealing now, like, as we start wrapping things up, we're dealing with this fight against woke culture, but it's funny. It's like there's a lot of closed-mindedness that really it begets anger, right? And it looks like that. Like, maybe somebody wants to do something different from the norm. Are you going to really start reaching for your gun? If
right.
they're ordering a different cup of coffee if they're wearing a dress
Yeah.
when they really should be wearing pants. Like calm the F down, let them be who they want to be.
That entire scene had such Inception vibes to it, only because like that's what happens when the person that you are intercepting notices that they're the dream is starting to collapse.
Right.
When the subconscious people that inhabit your brain start to notice like, oh, something's off. And they all start to like stare at you. The what the part.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Yeah, the dream
It happens
people.
The dream people start to realize like, hold up, like what
They
What'd you say?
they resent the real people, and they gotta attack the non-fabricated people.
Yeah,
Which happens in the Matrix. That happens in the Matrix because anybody who's not woke can literally become a Smith. That's in the code.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that's important, is the non-woke people attack you. If we want to get into Utena, she's kind of the most enlightened character. It seems like everybody else is dealing with their own purgatory, and they kind of resent her for it. They kind of resent that she just wants to be a prince, and it's like maybe they're kind of asking the wrong question. You know,
Yeah.
like
So
what it
so
means.
black and it's so yeah. I mean that whole scene I love from the Matrix, the first one. That whole scene where they walk down the street and Morpheus is kind of like explaining the philosophy of the Matrix. It's like if you are not one of us, you are one of them.
Yeah, and
Because
then Neo got
literally,
distracted by a girl in a red skirt, and he almost got his
yeah,
brains figuratively blown out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, you know, but
quite true.
because you get
And
distracted,
then
you know. So that's what's
oh
Christ like about just keeping your head on the straight and narrow, you know.
oh, and then of course like the fight scene where Morpheus is asking him like like you need to stop trying to hit me and just hit me.
Right.
Or like you think that's air you're
You're
really
breathing.
breathing?
Yeah,
Like
I was thinking that that's
is this
very important.
fatigue? Is this tiredness really something? Is this
Like, Dark City, Utena, and Matrix. I'm gonna use Dark City as my
it's a
main
mind
example.
fuck.
Also, just being shaped by your memories. I think a lot of what they try to do is convince you to not blame things maybe on your past or your trauma. Like, for example, part of the premise in Dark City is our hero thinks he's a murderer, thinks he's a serial killer, but really there's strangers, there's like these creepy men, right? That switch everybody around overnight. Strike of midnight happens and everybody falls asleep instantly in Dark City. It's a very limited world. And they move people around. So a person who might be a police officer one week will be a hotel clerk the next. And our hero, he doesn't remember who he was yesterday, but today he got assigned to be a serial killer and he woke up in like a murder scene and he's freaking out and stuff like that. And you've got this Kiefer Sutherland kind of mad scientist that's helping the bad guys, but a lot of what's limiting the character is what he thinks he did, who he thinks he is based off of what he did versus who he really is. You know what I'm saying? Like Morpheus kind of does that to Neo, where it's like, you've got fabricated memories of this life you've lived in the Matrix and stuff. So like, okay, if that's life's a lie, well, who are you really? And it's like, Neo has to fight. He's not Thomas Anderson. He is Neo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's why he has to fight against that shoehorned in personality. Because
Yeah.
Thomas Anderson is his Matrix name, you know what I mean? But like Neo, that's his real
and then
self,
of course,
like,
what do the agents call him? They call him the anomaly.
the anomaly. That's right. That's right. But that's where that pops up. Free Guy is an anomaly. Our hero in Dark City is an anomaly. Utena, oh my god, she's my favorite anomaly.
Right. Oh my god, what was the other one? No. It was no. It wasn't that. I'm trying to remember like what the we talked about Ghost in the Shell, but like Ghost in the Shell is really more of like it's Theseus paradox. I think I mentioned it some time ago.
Right, like where does something begin? They also do that something for like Washington's hatchet. They've said that like if you just replace the handle, you replace the blade, is it really the same axe anymore? No,
but that's something else. Like it's not really Gnosticism. It's more of, because one of the things that Makoto Kusanagi struggled with in Ghost in the Shell is trying to see if her memories are real. Because she's fully cybernetic, but then she doesn't know if like her personality or who she is a fabrication of these implanted memories, just to at least make her seem human.
Because that happens in Blade Runner too. Yeah, the replicant girl, she's under the impression she lived a certain life and she's really only a few months old.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just trying to see if there's a maybe I'm going towards the island where you have all the clones, but then the clones are all fed different memories, and they're all like, oh yeah, like I remember riding as a tricycle, I remember riding my tricycle as a kid, and then like someone else says, yes, like I remember riding a tricycle when I was a little kid too. Yeah, was it like bright red? Yes, it was bright red. It's like, and you're like, what?
right. So so that's it too. It's like, are you gonna let a fabricated reality really shape your personality?
Right.
You
But
know,
then it turns out
remember?
that you are in fact a clone, and your entire life is a lie.
Right, they just fed them fake memories. No, I get it.
Yeah. By the way, I don't mean to drag this on, but I happened to watch the Rick and Morty episode where they just hunt down the decoy families. I don't know
I've seen
if
that
you're
one, but a better, I feel like Gnostic one is the battery men inside the other reality. How Rick goes into his battery and he finds out
Oh, that one.
that
Yes.
one, and he posed as an alien, but he's really from outside the battery. And then he goes into the battery, and then he finds out that they made their own fabricated world on the inside with their own guys that do all the energy power.
Right.
And he has to go, and that's it because it's meta, for
Yeah.
sure. You know what I mean? But
It's so meta.
and it's like this guy made me, and that guy hit him, and I'm just, oh god,
Oh god. Yeah, inadvertently you are your own grandfather.
Something came up. It's not really, maybe it's not really Gnostic, but I kind of like to think it is. I was listening to an NPR thing the other day. This is how we're going to kind of wrap this up. Something to take with you. It's more like what I would consider like a very secular Gnosticism, something to expand your mind on, right? They were really talking about what cultures call the color of the sky. Like, apparently, like in Africa, you know, they don't really say the sky is blue. They say the sky is white or clear. It's different things, you know, because the point is, you know, the sun in contemporary Christianity, and unfortunately in Plato too, and I say unfortunately because he lended so much to our allegory for the allegory of the cave. Now I'm going to kind of go against his allegory on the flip side. The sun causes nothing but illusion, right? Because if it wasn't for the sun and all the shadows it created, well, really, the sky isn't blue. It's clear, right? It only looks opaque in the daytime when the sun is present, and it's the only thing we can really see, you know, other than the moon and maybe the morning star, you know? It's when it goes away, can we see what? We can see the real friggin' universe, right? We can see stars and planets and everything like that.
You can see the stars and planets and galaxies, yeah.
Right. So if we're going to go opposite with Christian doctrine, is that, you know, it is not God's ever watchful eye. If anything, it's quite the opposite. It's actually a big old smoke and mirrors thing.
Yeah.
Throughout the day, and it's only at night do we get to see everything for what it is, right? Isn't that poetic?
Your entire day is an illusion.
Right, right. We live in the realm of illusion. Night is truth. You know,
that is truth. No, and even so, like you hear these references to day and night as like, you know, like it's especially in Greek times, you know, like, oh, Morpheus's blanket, you know, it's
right, exactly, the veil of night and things like that. And it's like, no, it's actually kind of the opposite. If anything, it's
the daytime is the veil.
That's why I like the Truman Show. You get that pastel blue sky with the clouds. They do the same thing in Dark City. You get like this fake looking billboard wall of a world, you know.
Yeah.
And the outside, on the other side, is actually stars. It's night. It's the cosmos, you know, because that's what it really is out there. So that's an allegory.
It's very flat Earth philosophy too, where like it's literally just like, okay, oh, turn the key. It's
nothing to
daytime,
fear.
you know. Yeah, daytime, nighttime. But yeah, so
but we could start wrapping it up, because I mean, I don't like, you know, we had a good audience. We didn't have any other references to pop culture really need to pop up, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
If we ever explored.
But no, this is I mean, it's a very interesting topic. It definitely continues on, you know, the whole curiosity and questioning about your reality and whether or not there is something else out there.
I wanna close too with saying, you know, because man, I had a nice guy visit me over at one of the conventions and stuff. I don't know if he's listening in. I got his business cards and stuff, you know. He thinks we're in the Matrix, but I think he thinks we're in the Matrix. I think we're in a Matrix of the flesh, but I don't think we're in a digital Matrix, right? You know, like, I don't know. Trying to close with the philosophy. What do you think?
Personally, I think that time is relative.
It is.
And
It's a fabrication, an illusion, and it's relative to where you are and what you're doing.
Yes,
and how fast you're going.
Exactly. I to this day firmly believe that when I get on a plane, I don't necessarily go from point A to point B. The world just rotates under me, and then I just
It kind of does. It kind of does, because I did follow the sun a little bit during one of my trips. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, no. What I mean is that until what I mean is that I call my sister on the phone, but until the very instant that I call her on the phone, I speak to her, she doesn't exist.
that's like
I don't know if you've heard any of that schmuck.
That's so early children, actually, like, education does dictate that that's kind of how, like, our early brains work. It's like when somebody leaves the room, they kind of stop existing, which is why it freaks them out so much when mommy's gone. It's not that mommy's gone, it's that mommy is gone. You know what I mean? You know, and so eventually, yeah, we are kind of similar to that. You know, we forget, you know, but that's why we need to encourage that wokeness. Yeah, not. If anybody wants to combat me on wokeness, it's like, come on, really? You want to be sleepy then? You know, like, which is it gonna be? Are you gonna be sleepy or are you gonna be woke? Huh? Especially all these Let's Go Brandon people calling Mr. Biden sleepy.
All right, settle down.
You know what? It's because our web developer Angel kept hashtagging MAGA stuff on our SoFlo thing, so I got to balance it out just a touch. Like, I affiliate with people who support Trump, but I don't need them hashtagging our Twitter with MAGA 2024. That ain't gonna happen.
Ignorance is
but like
bliss.
MAGA 2024, that ain't gonna happen. He ain't coming back. And it's funny. So Pufflet's talking about bliss is ignorance. Or ignorance is bliss. That's exactly verbatim Cypher. That's what made Cypher such a villain. He wanted to go back into his matrix.
And the perfect way to end it and wrap it up, because that Gnosticism, ignorance is bliss. Precisely. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, everybody. Once again, I am Antonio. I am known on here as Moonover of a 13. I'm just gonna type here in the chat. Just say, hello, this is me. I do exist. I did not just pop into existence just because I typed in.
I have my thing, but like a second keyboard to also be undead savvy, but I want to reach for it.
Indeed.
Thank you, everyone.
So yeah, so I am Antonio. I am Moonrover. You can find me here on Twitch as Moonrover. I don't really have any other socials, but we don't really. But SoFlo,
we're just SoFlo.
We're just SoFlo. Yeah. So follow us on any SoFlo. Give us a follow here on Twitch. We still have a Facebook.
Hey, we have been multi-streaming. We are streaming right now on Facebook. Hello, everybody. We're not just on Twitch anymore.
Really? Yeah, okay. Awesome.
Hi. Yay. Thank you, Streamlabs.
Yay. I should
we're
totally...
also on YouTube right now, too.
Oh, okay. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Brilliant.
Yeah, wow. I should have told you that before.
You've been very busy, Sabrina.
I have been. Yeah, right? I don't really let people know what I'm doing, but I do. I'm a busy squirrel.
I need to seriously catch up on this train too. I need to promote on the Facebook and the YouTubes. But yeah, we've been
pulling through.
Yes, we are pulling through. Thank you very much for joining us. I know I'll keep saying it until I die.
Right. I'll play you off. I'm gonna play the Doors.
Yeah. Oh, as we break on through to the other side. But yes, follow us on all social media: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the stuff. Bye. The dream is real.
You know the day destroys the night. Night divides the day.